Welcome everyone to this episode of Quantum Leap. I'm your host, Toyin Umesiri. With me in the studio is a dear old friend, Jimmy Allen, founder and creative director at the Bureaucracy here in town. Welcome, Jimmy. It's been a long time.
Thank you, Toyin, for having me. Appreciate it.
Good. And I'm super excited because you and I already warmed up. We already got started. The,
Yeah.
the topic today is going to be really, we're going to blow it out of the water. I love it, love it. So, we're going to talk about media, your background in media, role of media in business, business acceleration, transformation. We're going to put it all out there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So, go ahead and just introduce yourself, share more about your background, your perception, your skills, where you're coming from, and where you've landed right now.
Yeah. So basically, started in media. Like I'd say my kickoff was in grad school at Ohio University. I got a degree in visual communication, a master's, and was essentially recruited by the Copley newspaper to work in the newspaper industry. And, the core of that is, it's just journalism. It's the who, what, where, when, why, and how of what people are doing. It's getting to the stories that the community wants to hear about, the standout moments. You're looking for things that matter to people. And then 3 years into my role there, I think I was in the area for 5 years, but 3 years in, and my staff, it basically, the paper started to slow down. So the paper eventually closed. We have a library on the site of the old Beacon News. And I came over to South Street, so it was only a few blocks away, and started an agency that now is known as Bureau Gravity. And we are mostly focused right now on a startup that we call Talk Lab that's very podcast oriented and publishing oriented. Digital publishing is what we're doing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how has media changed since you left grad school?
How has media changed? It hasn't. What has changed is the technology.
Okay.
And the technology is allowing everyone to participate in multimedia.
Okay.
So I think, what we look at and we call social media is publishing. And so now everybody can publish. Everybody has a device that has a camera, they can shoot video or still, they can write their text in there. So that's the same thing that we were doing in journalism. It's just people now are telling their own story or telling their corporate story or telling some story. They're trying to develop a way of creating a structure and a system around getting their best stories out there. And their best stories, are a lot of times, they're looking at it completely subjectively, like it's from their point of view. Where in journalism, we were trying to be objective and say, look, let's look at this thing in a balanced way. There has been, in the last 25 years that I've been working in this, we've seen it. I think now we know it's kind of played itself out a little bit. We're always going to use things like, we're going to transmit moving images through systems like television. We're going to continue to do that, but we're not doing it through really large enterprises. So now everybody has access to that publishing system through the internet, and more people on the planet are getting access to it. So now I think LinkedIn, which is a platform that I'm mostly focused on, there's 1 billion users that are on there, and people are wanting to publish their corporate, their business story, their personal brand to try to grow value in the economy. So it's accelerated because of the technology. I think Moore's Law is a principle that's there that I love to think about. We'll probably get into that a little bit more, but yeah, that's what's driving it. So and maybe I'll just launch into that, but we've essentially lowered the time price of being able to share our stories, because it used to be really expensive to buy gear, to buy microphones or to have a camera. I remember when I started, I had an expensive DSLR camera and a set of lenses. And that's what I worked with every day to create what went into the newspaper. And now, I would say the phone is more advanced than any of those systems that we're using. It has, it's built-in Wi-Fi. You can transmit from it. And that acceleration is what a guy named George Gilder, an economist, talks about is the time price of of things are going down. It's
Right.
becoming less and less expensive to produce. So where does that go? I think the big
Exactly.
question, where are we going from there?
And that's incredible because, you talked about the technology creating access and giving the power in the hands of publishers, right? I think the other side that most people don't work on in terms of the skill is how to create what message for what audience. What's the community now? You talked about the stories the community wants to hear, but that in of itself is a skill of empathizing, understanding, deep research to understand what the needs of people are. And most people may have the gear, the technology, they may have the phone, they may have the tools. That technology can solve quickly. I think what technology is not solving for is the skill you went to school for, which is what do people care about and how do you package, right? In what form? The concept of media in of itself is a vehicle for delivering a message to a particular type of people. But that vehicle does not look the same because certain groups of people prefer this type of format, that type of format, this type of format. And I think that matrix, that's where skill is required. It's not just the technology, it's the skill of communication, it's the skill of deep research, it's the skill of empathy, of connecting with people. So that in of itself is where there's a lot of opportunity for those in.
I think somebody's got a hammer drill
Yeah.
somewhere in the building.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the skill that people are not planning for. And in order for your publish, what you publish to be successful, you've got to consider all of those.
Okay. I like where you're going with that. So the skills that people are planning for, right?
Okay.
And, I've always had a burden for that question, right?
Okay.
And it's because of, my life was, I was aspiring to, as an entrepreneur, like always. And I thought, I paid my way through school, got through a good undergraduate program, got into grad school. And then the thing that my very first job, the industry actually was essentially going out of business. And I started looking around and thinking very quickly, like, what are we back at OU, back at Ohio University, what are we telling kids coming out of the journalism program? And that question is, I think, the question you're asking. So 25 years later, what are we telling young people to prepare for? And how are we helping them? How's the system preparing them for what's coming?
Right.
And that's the question. And there's I think a great divide of a friend of mine, Brad Edwards, says that he teaches the older people about the technology and he's teaching younger people about the talk.
I love that.
And there's this segmentation that needs to, we need to close that gap because there are just too many variables for people to make sense of. And I think a lot of young people are struggling with how to figure out, they're not going to get the job title. Like, I got the newspaper photojournalism job title, but what title does a visual communicator today get in the marketplace?
Right.
Influencer maybe, or, something that unless they're very successful and the measure of success is even different now, I think they're going to feel a little bit like they're floating, displaced. And that, I think, is a challenge for our local communities, for Aurora for sure,
right.
Is where we're at and what I'm focused on. But how to figure that out, and maybe we talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think personally the key is usefulness, being useful, right? So I think people overestimate what the needs are, the needs of their skills, and people may not even know who needs your skills or who values your skills, right? So when we go into the business dimension, business development of commercializing skill, so let's say you have the skill, you come out of school. In the old world, you're looking for a job, and a job comes with a title.
Yeah.
And that world is shifting rapidly because work needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, employers just want the work done. If
Mm-hmm.
AI can do it, they will turn to AI. So the key is, how useful are you to the work that needs to be done? Do you have the skill, and are you able to communicate, right? That skill and the contribution you can make to advance somebody else's goal,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the next level approach to the world. Not just looking for a job anymore. A job comes with a title and then a description, and it's firm and it's rigid, and you sit on that job and you do what you're expected to do.
Yeah.
That world is fading away.
It's gone.
What we now have to do is, it's almost like the entrepreneurial mindset is what everybody has to embrace, including on the job.
Yes.
You almost have to articulate your value to your employer constantly, because that value, if it can be delivered cheaper, better, faster by new technology out there, you are competing, right?
Yeah.
So it's still back to communication, because you said, you're teaching the old guard the new technology, and then the younger ones, right? How to communicate, how to use their skills, right? Okay. I actually think everybody still needs to upgrade to being human again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? How we connect with one another is very relational. And relationship is tied to to how we communicate with one another, the information we exchange with one another. So there's a science behind, emotional intelligence, connectivity, all of that then shows up in the world of media. The people who will be successful, who are successful and will continue to be successful, be it influencer, be it creators, whatever label we tie on it, label doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's about results.
Right.
What results can you deliver for who? And can they reward you financially for it?
Yeah.
Like in the old world, again, we are so used to labels and we want to fit in the box, because labels make us fit into a box, and it tells us a story of who we are to you, how we relate, what my expectations are. It's like color. I'm not allowed to color out of this box.
Yeah.
I know my lane.
Yeah.
That. But today it's really the free world, where it's about contribution, it's about value, and those who will continue to win are people who understand how to talk to other people.
Yeah, I think that, in the private sector, I think it's about the confidence in your point of view, right? I mean, that's ultimately kind of what the value is now.
Right.
And you, of course, I think a lot of people struggle with wanting things to be the same. They want to maintain status quo or don't change everything. There's so much disruption, but that's the new norm. I mean, we are in a disruptive, right now we're in probably the most disruptive moment of my life that hasn't been, I mean, you can look back and think of, I can't imagine the world wars and things of that nature. And so we are, how would you say, we're really comfortable, but we're uncomfortable with that. And it seems like with again, that time price concept and we're going to go through a period of flourishing. I think we're going to go through a massive abundance ramp up where everything will be everyone will have everything that they want, because there's just so much abundance of knowledge and engineering and thinking and systems. And then you compound that with AI, and we're going to make things more cost effective. Everything's going to get cheaper. And so there really is kind of, if people could relax and believe that, we could get on with that human side, that side of embracing people and having relationship be the priority again, and think more aspirationally, because we're not in a lack of things to make our lives better.
Right.
We eat well, we drive nice cars, we live in safe environments. So what do we want to get on with, I think, is the question.
Right. There is another world though, right? And I love the optimistic, positive side, which I live in as well.
Yeah.
However, I've been exposed seriously to another world where people are nervous. You talked about if people would relax. People are not relaxed.
No.
People are anxious. people are confused, people fear, they are risk averse, and that's real. That's a real world that,
Yep.
those of us, I call it the privilege. We are very privileged to be isolated from that world. And so one of the things that I've had the opportunity of seeing is, having worked for the largest company in the world, Fortune 1, I sit on a board, I work with government at the highest levels, I'm exposed to, the privileges of life and all of that. However, every single day, because of the nature of my work at the grassroots, that world doesn't translate to the grassroots. And at the grassroots, it almost feels like people are being left behind. The skills are not there to transition in the old world. So there are some things that really worked really well in the past, in the last 50 years. One of it was, there was a part of government that actually laser focused on expanding the middle class.
Mm-hmm.
And they implemented policies, and they put their money where the mouth was, to lift people out of poverty, to lift people, to equip people, to make sure nobody was left behind. There were pipelines, there were bridges, consciously, right? Intentionally things were put in place to lift people from the base of the pyramid to the middle, at least the middle, and then you could decide if you wanted to climb up to the highest levels. That's gone away. Okay, that's gone away. Is that you're not living in a society where people actually feel that somebody's coming for them, that somebody's building a bridge for them, that somebody's going to equip them, that somebody's going to educate them. Basic things that were in place for maybe like GI bills and all of those things that were put in place deliberately to equip people for that future. That's gone away. And that's something I'm sharing with people. That brings a lot of nervousness to say, the systems that used to catch people, right? Mm-hmm. Even if people are in the middle and something happens, disruption, like you're talking about, maybe a few job layoffs here and there, the system that used to stop people from crashing to the ground, where are those systems anymore? So within the context of the safety nets, the safety, right, of the top, and then the base, and then the middle, there's a whole new world out there where I'm seeing that the base is good, the middle is going to shrink. If the middle doesn't upgrade their skill, media, particularly media communications, human development, connectivity, because AI is coming for the middle, right? It's coming for the base of the middle, right? Because there's still the top of the middle, the executives in the corporate world that would make it out, that they have wealth creation skills and all of that. So there's a whole world out there in the economic development circle where I'm watching, because in the old world, again, we had governments taking on responsibility for putting policies in place and putting resources in place to take people out of the base, to move them to the middle, and then to support the middle from crashing back to the base. Right. That's a struggle. But having said that, the future then means everybody has to equip themselves. It's individuals' responsibility now to literally acquire the skills for that future.
Well, we know homeschooling's on the rise. I think people are reacting, things don't happen immediately. We can imagine future states, we can imagine different situations, but we're in the middle of a culture, change. So I think that's the fear. That's what creates fear. Change creates fear. And then people feeling like, well, maybe I'll get left out. But at the end of the day, entrepreneurialism is available to everybody. It's a mindset. I just started going through the E-Myth again. And, one of the things it talks about, one of the treatments that you can go through is just keep a list of the things you do every day. And you write either an E, an M, or a T next to it, whether you're being entrepreneurial, managerial, or you're, being a technician. Right. And so if you find that everything you're doing is a technician, right, you might want to consider being a bit more entrepreneurial and think about how does what it is that the whole point of the E-Myth is to tap into your spirit of what are you driven to do in life to make people's lives better. And that's the greatest entrepreneurial endeavor there is that it's not about making more money. It's about how do you solve a problem for people. That to me that's the core for me of media. That's the core of of my livelihood is, at the end of the day, there, you can't exit and be any more happy than you are in what you're doing. Like I think that's like this idea of retirement, or, a lot of people love to, I think we do have a mindset that people think when they gain enough resources, get enough money, they can just exit and they're going to be happy. For me, my purpose, and I think entrepreneurs' purpose, is that you want to stay in it, improving situations all the time.
Right.
Encouraging people to do that, I think, is what's happening in media. I think I think that entrepreneurialism is on the rise, probably more than any time in human history.
Oh, yes, I agree. And it's also tied to, this concept of spiritual awakening, is that, to your point, for you to create, for you to produce at the highest levels possible, you have to come back to yourself, your authentic self, your real self. And you have to believe in yourself, and you have to listen to yourself, and you have to be guided by yourself.
Yeah.
That world requires incredible courage, right?
Yeah.
And that courage has been stripped away from people, or was never given to certain groups of people in the first place, that was raised in this, what I call, the traditional education system. That was not the promise of the traditional education system. The traditional education system came out of, the industrial era, the needs of the industry for technical skills, right? And so people could contribute and bring their technical skills to that world, and you'd be rewarded for it. And you did not have to rely on you. You went to school, you got the skills, you became capable to contribute towards the advancement of the industry. You're talking about a totally different world. And that's why in my book, Mindset of an Entrepreneur, I actually wrote that book for those transitioning out of corporate life to becoming an entrepreneur, helping them understand that you're going to need to go through a natural transformation in how you see life, how you perceive life, and the voices you're listening to and the voices you're trusting. And it's a little bit of detachment from the old, and then attaching into your own inner reality and constructing that reality inside out instead of outside in. But it takes so much courage, and that's where you're going to find people afraid, people holding on, attached to safety, because that world requires us to trust ourselves, to trust other people, to trust that it's literally a leap of faith, right? Yeah. It's a leap of faith, and it takes courage to do that.
I think when you package it, it's that way. I think when you package it, and you have to, communications it happens in two ways. We use knowledge to essentially organize material, atoms, to put things in there. Yeah. But in a young person's life, let's say you're 20 years old, we look back and say, well, you've got, there's a beautiful period from 20 to 30, and from 30 to 40 and, 40 to 50. And you start having that perspective. You know the things that you gain over time, that there's there's a reward for the risk over time. And that, I think, is what needs to be encouraged more, that you're not in a big hurry to arrive at some, again, material existence or presence. It's a spiritual journey. Everybody's on that spiritual journey, but you're becoming the best version of yourself. And, and you want to find mentors and people around you and look at the situation, but, take a deep breath and really enjoy what you find yourself doing,
right? And
look for things that you enjoy. For me, that's what it was. Like, I had the worst time as in early education. Like, it was very difficult. I think because I was so curious, and it was very hard to be in a room where I couldn't be outside. I couldn't explore things. And we went from, we were being, like you said, educated for a job. And I now know that I create my job every day. I make a new job every single day. I have a whole list of new things that I'm doing. And that kind of freedom is now being offered to us, where you can learn on any platform.
Right.
You can go and absorb information. And I think people we've really looked negatively at social media, and it does have a lot of negative issues right now. But the positive is that we're going to ramp up to a professionalism in social publishing where education is going to be, it's going to be offered that way. I think I just heard somebody speaking about this, and it was to hear it said, manifested a little bit more, but the idea that our best teachers in the world can now teach and get out to billions of people is, it's a great potential opportunity. So the idea that we're learning, you're on this learning curve, just keep doing it. You need your 10,000 hours and you'll master something. But for me in school, once I got to grad school and I realized that visual communications was the one thing that I'm most confident in, like I think my personal skill set is I can look at something and see it and know whether or not that it's perfect for me.
Right.
That I can make a judgment of it and go, that's perfect for me. It pleases me to look at things that are arranged a certain way or lit a certain way, and then the beauty of now adding podcasting to it. Like we're being seen in a frame, but it's being essentially televised in 24 frames a second. We're running through this. All of this is like movement in visual communication that has set me free to want to get better at that. And I think there are thousands, millions of variations of media and just the economy at large that people can get lost in and become experts at.
Right.
Certainly, just to throw it out there to give some context to it, like, we're now seeing people becoming AI, consultants, and certainly the big consultancies have added that to and they did it immediately because they lead and they know that you've immediately have to have somebody as an expert in AI if you're at McKinsey and you're consulting AT&T.
Right.
But that's the same exact formula, and I think that's what you're tapping into.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening at the elementary school level.
Right. And what you're talking about is not theory. I'm living right now in the future of education. Myself, I have 2 online schools, business schools.
Right.
I developed a AI-powered sales accelerator. So coupled to my original classes, I've also created a GPT underpinned by all of my own lessons. And I've presented that to my students. So literally they have Coach Toyin at their fingertips where they can ask questions of the GPT and it will respond based on the way I teach and train.
Yeah.
So that came out of something though. My husband is a university professor, right? Chemistry. And in my own family legacy, I was part of, my late father was part of establishing 2 Nigerian universities. So I come out of a community that really cares about education. And then when I left Walmart and I started talking about international trade and business and entrepreneurship and wrote my books, I soon realized that the existing education system left out entrepreneurial education. You had to jump in and figure it out by yourself. And I say, well, wait a minute. We know how to teach people how to be a pilot, how to be a doctor, how to be a neuroscientist. We know how to organize information and bundle knowledge right into books and resources where other people can come and learn, enlighten themselves, expand their level of consciousness, develop themselves so that they can contribute in a field of study. And so the gap that I feel that I'm feeling is this business entrepreneurial mindset and then human development. Because what I also found, that spiritual journey, for you to be successful as an entrepreneur, for you to create, for you to manifest from a Christian standpoint, be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, subdue. For you to manifest that reality, the only people gifted creativity and productivity are people who reconnect with their spiritual self. So as part of my class, I also talk about a lot of spiritual formation, emotional maturity, because emotions, many people may just see emotions through the softness, but emotion is the most powerful side of human because that's how we use our energy to create. So anybody that doesn't control their emotions cannot direct their energy and focus on what it is they want to create. Because unregulated emotions, everybody's everywhere. You're dysregulated. But in order for you to manifest, to create, the first thing you have to get under control, because it's kind of like that middle point of creativity, because when you think about the science, I go a lot into manifestation and all of that, is that the science of creation follows information and energy. And part of what our mind does is to organize information, create knowledge, and then create stories that we will live out, we will act out.
Yeah.
Right. And then we invite other people to join us on that journey of creativity. So creativity in of itself, our life experience is a story. We're living out a story right here.
That's right.
and we're acting out based on what we believe. So there's a lot of intricacies in the inner world to outer world reality that an entrepreneur has to develop. So I'm living in that world right now, and I know that the future of education is about empowering individuals to be more of themselves, right?
Yeah.
Authentic self, so that the gifts and talents that they pack, they can contribute towards advancement of society. Because without that, what we're doing persists, where we're fitting people into a box and we're asking them to play the role, play it well. We give them the title, we give them the label, but those boxes now are not enough. They're not serving the world, they're not serving the person, and they won't be here in the future. And what's going to be here is humans. And so being more human, being more of yourself is the key, and helping people to trust themselves, because they pack a lot of talent that the world desperately needs now more than ever. So that's another world that when I work with people, and I mean, these are people who have tons of degrees, jobs, professionals of professionals, and we come back to this: come home to yourself, think about you and your natural disposition, your natural talent, and lean into that, because your wealth is there. So that's something I encourage people to explore.
Well, and I always express that in the way that we have a constitution, and it says that we have the inalienable right to pursue happiness. And for me, it's just so basic, but like when I photograph, when I push the shutter, I own the copyright of what I see, And so we have built into our system ownership around the individuality that we get to wealth. Manifest.
That's wealth.
It is.
Owning.
Yes.
Owning your creation.
You are owning it. So
owning something that is valuable, creating things that contribute, that other people need. That's the whole point of business. It's like I try to bring people back to the foundation of business. I teach people around the history of money. Humans will always exchange value. It used to be trade by barter. What do you have? What can I do for you? What can you do for me?
Right.
That comes first, and money comes after that. But most people chase money without understanding the fundamental of value exchange.
Well, and I think that has been a space that I've been finding myself in. And again, this economist, George Gilder, he does a brilliant job. He wrote a book called Life After Capitalism, and he talks about some of these things, and then the E-Myth picks up on it, and there's still more. It all happens, but the basic question is: do you want to trade your time for money, or do you want to build value that can be understood by other people, and then put into a system that? And the word scale is not a friendly concept to people, but to repeat something. It wouldn't matter if you were, a flower shop. If you find that weddings need flowers and you can repeat that system, you find joy in it. It's a pleasure that you really have. But you're not trading your hours. You're not coming in, just to say I'm working. That is the big shift, I think, mentally, that people need to sort of be considering, is how do I create value? And I think I'm not just saying this, it's not a philosophy that I feel like I've created, but I believe that that's the demand that AI is bringing to the table.
Absolutely. So one of the things I've learned to do is to understand and translate this language, the language of those at the top, the biggest companies in the world. Scale is absolutely the language. Working for Fortune 1, all we do is scale. Okay? But I've also learned how to break down that conversation, because those who are startups and business owners rising, there's a discomfort to certain things we do at the biggest company. So I try to bring big business strategies to the world of startups and business, right? But I'm very aware that several things are uncomfortable. So I have a math background. The way and a technology master's information system. So here's the concept of scale, just to help people feel very comfortable. When it comes to systems, technology, this is about automating predictable and repeatable tasks and activities.
Yeah.
Right? So the moment you can find trends and patterns that is positive, and you can predict it and you can repeat it, that's a recipe for automation.
Yeah.
Meaning you can hand it off to the machines, and the machines can always do this work faster, better, cheaper than the human computing power. We have a quantum computer. There's many things we connect with in the universe that we can do. But the concept of machine learning and machine automation, Amazon built entire cloud computing on that one principle. You are looking for something, you want to buy something, you search, you find, you put the numbers, how much of the quantity you want. The entire checkout process is fully automated because it's predictable, it's repeatable, and you can hand it over to the machine. And somebody can sit back and then it cranks open. So businesses that scale, they scale looking for trends and patterns that are repeatable, predictable. And once you can find that, that's your recipe for maximum wealth. That's what scale is about. Now, most startups and most businesses, they haven't designed processes that are predictable, scalable, because you can't design a process if you don't know the input, process, output. If you don't know what triggers that, I'm using my systems background now, is that you can program something, you can have things of value. Let's use business terms so that my audience can follow. You talked about value creation, value distribution. Absolutely. Entrepreneurs so much focus on my product, my services, I can do this for you, this is the value. Fantastic. But that in of itself is a process in people's imagination. But the trigger, right? What gets people needing your products and services? What gets them coming to you? What creates the demand? You can be the supply of all things, but if people don't know, if they don't understand, if they cannot see you, if there's no trigger, if there's no activation on that demand side, the product and services sit. So the power of media, connected to the conversation, the power of media and stories really is the activator. For the entrepreneur and the business owner that wants to attract more people, the attraction marketing, the branding, the sales aspect is to become the trigger. Because most people build fantastic products and services, but they forget to activate their audience, to stimulate demand, right? To generate interest, to draw people in. Because if that doesn't happen, sometimes people talk about the funnel and all of those things. But that's the way I see machine as well, is the tools are always available. The technology will continue to improve itself. But human demand, human needs, what humans find useful is always going to be the trigger. It's always going to be the demand that gets us interested into spending money, into acquiring what people are creating. And that's the side of sales I try to help people understand, is that yes, get very good at creating the best products in the world, but don't forget to also learn how to activate demand, how to draw people in. To
tie that in, what you really want to do is take people on that journey.
Absolutely.
Because I just saw a survey that basically said that what people really want to hear most about are your products and like the features of your products and services. And so if you're on an entrepreneurial journey and you're building something, let people see what you're doing. Absolutely. And it can be done in a lot of different ways. For us, it's the work product. We put the work product out. One of the things that I'm trying to put my head around right now is, we do a lot of publishing on LinkedIn, but all of the publishing we're doing is on other people's feeds. So they don't see that collectively. There's not a central channel where you see that. So we're currently building a space where that can be seen. And that is for the sales and basically for helping people understand. And I would even go so far as to say sales, what I'm working on is what is the system, the rules of this system, and trying to make those very clear for people. mainly because everything's changing. And it's so, when you're doing something new, people have a hard time. The market hasn't been educated about it yet. So you may be using language they've never heard before.
Absolutely, yes.
And that is very hard to work through. But by God's grace, we're at the point now. I feel like the last 25 years has been, to be misunderstood is an entrepreneurial, sort of dilemma. Like, you're always misunderstood. But we're at a point now where things are consolidating a bit, and people are seeing the value of, in my case, media as a way to carry their persona, their personal brand throughout time, really all the way to their legacy.
Right.
With AI now, you're not going to, your legacy won't be, if you decide, won't be just a few old photographs of you and your life. You're going to have your own AI. You're going to build your own, I'll just say, consciousness around what it is that you think and process. And the evidence of that is in the libraries that we occupy. When you go in, all those authors that took the time to really put what their point of view was down on paper are on the shelves. That now is available digitally online through AI and through media. And it's a massive wave opportunity for early adopters. But I think long term, it's going to cover everything. It'll cover government, education. It's just going to be the reality that we live in. And, it is exciting. I get excited about it.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest excitement that I have is just the unveiling of part of what I call how the laws of the universe, how the laws of God's creation actually is designed to support the entrepreneurs. However, there's this knowledge base. So, for example, entrepreneurs can be chasing the next opportunity, chasing the next, right? It's like there's this energy of pursuit that gets tired. Like I always say, like when you get tired of chasing, you need to start learning attraction marketing, because the way we're wired, the way we're designed as humans, as spiritual beings, by definition, we all connect to one another based on these needs that we have, that is time-bound and space-bound in the natural world. And when people master that world, you're gonna focus on what you need to focus on. And part of it would be this, what I call energize your business. I say, it's about what emotion are you going to deliver to your community that will attract them. It's not about the product or service. The product and services comes after the conversations, after the trust is built, after the mutual exchange of energetic, right? Product and services is really a carrier of, I'll use this analogy, of a prescription, of a solution to people's problems. Okay, it's like the doctor, but before the doctor prescribes, the doctor wants to get to know you, wants to talk to you. The doctor has to have good bed manners, right? Has to be inviting. You're going to check the review. Is this a good doctor? Right? Before you expose your pain points, your problems, before somebody comes into your office or your company, there has to be an emotional connectivity to whatever it is you're doing. It's not, and that attachment is not to your product or services. That's the biggest error entrepreneurs and business owners make. The business owner is attached to what they created. Naturally, it's your baby, it's what you created. But the marketplace could care less. What they care about is, can I trust you? Do you have the emotional intelligence to care for me? Can I expose my pain points? Can I show you my weakness? Can I even give you access to my world, which I'm guarded about? Yeah.
Which is the exchange of value, right?
Absolutely.
First step.
And I say, as Christians, that is what love is. Right. Love is the biggest, fastest way to make money. Is that we all humans are searching for safety. We're searching for trust. We're searching to perceive that the person will do us no harm, will do us all the good. Once we can identify who those people are, we will let down our guard. We'll give them everything they need. That's what the doctor is. You don't want to go to a doctor that you've heard is not the best, right? And so I try to bring those laws of universe to help calm and guide entrepreneurs and business owners to say, tap into these natural laws that help us come together as a community anyway. And when you can attract people close to you, if they can trust you, because many people self-sabotage, they're running their business with the wrong energy. But the right energy builds trust with the people you want to serve. They feel safe. They come to you. Then you can then listen, right? Because ultimately, then you want to listen. They hear. They know you. You can hear them, and then out of those conversations, you can then offer them your best prescription, and then give them a chance, right? And this is another type of, entrepreneurs tend to push and say that is the wrong energy. You chase people away. I say our job is to give people something to think about, not to think for them. We're going to get really good at presenting our offers in the best environment. People know we love them, we care about them. Why not? And that we're going to guide them to make the best decision for their life. That's the journey. That's the journey is. They have their own journey. Do I have the tools, capabilities to help them arrive where they want to arrive anyway? Faster, better, cheaper, safer, right? And so when I start teaching these principles, you see people go, oh, I can relax. Yes, you can relax. If you're carrying the right message, if you're carrying the right solutions for the world, if you're doing the right thing, the right people are already looking for you energetically. But the job is, how do we energize our businesses with the right, there's this aura that people need to put around their business that is welcoming. So that's more of the most advanced side of energetics. You think about Walmart. Walmart is the largest company in the world, but the energy, they try to remove that energy of we're the biggest, we're the baddest, but they are. But they have this very soft heart of making people live better, making people save money. And they're reaching the grassroots with that message, and the message connects. It connects with the world's largest company.
Yeah.
And they're getting bigger, more than $500 billion, because their message at the grassroots is so heart-centered that people see that you walk in, you save money, you live a better life. So those are some of the things I try to get people to say. You can be the best, but if you don't connect with the people you're trying to serve, with the right message, with the right spirit, with the right energy, you lose people, because everybody's like, nobody needs to stay in a negative space. And so that's just the most advanced side of human design. I call it quantum leap human design, emotional intelligence, sales acceleration, and really just building community. The people you want to serve want you to serve them. But we have to come together with the right heart, with the right mind, with the right intentions. So thank you so much, Jimmy.
Yeah,
Parting words.
It's
been fantastic having you and catching up with you
I
after
feel like
many years.
I learned a lot. I know that I can remember years ago, I think it was about 3.5 years ago, we were talking about a lot of things. And just, it's really encouraging always to talk to you. I really did. I really enjoyed speaking with you. I gained a lot. I'm going to take away some good energy. Good. So thank you, Toyin.
Hopefully we served you some great energy here with water and...
Well, that's what media is going to be in the future. We're just going to do this for each other.
Okay,
so
good.
I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. And tell them where they can find your office. You're right here in town.
We're just a few blocks away. We're at 56 South LaSalle. Talk Lab is a publishing podcast company, and love to talk to people that want to publish on a regular basis and kind of get their brand awareness out there.
Yes, and definitely a great space. I've been there, a few times. It's a great place, if you want to have professional publication, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching this episode of Quantum Leap. I'm your host, Toyin, Umesiri, author of Mindset of an Entrepreneur. I'll see you again next week. Bye for now.